Good morning, YouTube. Well, today I hope to make some headway on this Sylvania 542 clock radio. I gotta tell you, it's a great feeling to be in your shop right around 7 o'clock in the morning. It's a good way to just kick off the day and relax a little bit and figure out what you gotta do to get your day started. Well, I made one bit of a discovery with this, and it's the first time I had ever seen it before, so I had to start asking questions. When I was going through here testing resistors, which I have a few that's been marked that need replaced, I think there's 5 or 6, I come across one up here in this corner that wasn't on the schematic, and that one in that corner made one more resistor in this radio in the chassis versus how many was listed on the parts diagram. So I kept testing it just wouldn't read right, and the collar bands on the supposed resistor didn't match anything, didn't make no sense at all. Well, luckily I posted a picture online and quizzed a few people about it, and it come back to me that this is not a resistor at all. This is a capacitor. And what you see is, I don't know how well that'll show up, it'll probably throw way out of focus, is black, silver. Never seen anything like it before. And when it's hooked up to the meter in resistance mode, I'll go through the ranges here, you get infinite on everything. You get a bit of a hit there for a minute, but then it shows nothing. So we come over here and we hook it to our capacitance tester. Find out what we've got. And this is a non-polarized capacitor. That's what made it even weirder, and it's got a 10% tolerance on it. That's why it's got a silver band. So we come over here and throw it on this tester, and it shows capacitance 0.1. So we come over here and we look at our list, and this is considered a ceramic capacitor, and it sits right here in line with the 22K and goes between the 22K, get some light down here so you can see a bit better, goes between this 22K right here and over here to the side of the local oscillator, and then joins this capacitor and goes out and grounds on the side of the tuning capacitor, if that makes any sense. Kind of funky. I've never seen anything like it before. So I want to say thanks in part to John in Arkansas and your mentor Brendan up in Michigan. John, Brendan, thank you very much for solving this great mystery. I'll keep my eyes open for anything else like this I ever find in the future. That's very odd. And I also want to thank you guys for giving me a proper schematic, because this is my third schematic that shows yet something different from what the Ryder's schematic and what the Beatman schematic shows for the layout of this radio. There were so many different variations over the years. They must have tweaked it a little bit here and there and decided what they liked, what they didn't like. So what I did, I'm going to keep the parts list from the Ryder's because it's correct. It shows everything it should. But I like the drawings that the Sam's PhotoFact give me, and I was able to put them on the printer and make much better blow-up drawings of it. I can actually see what all I'm dealing with. Everything's listed here in nice detail. So we got all that, and the other reason why I hadn't done a whole lot with this radio is I was waiting on some parts to come. And first time in dealing with a company called Radio Days. They seem like a bunch of fantastic people to deal with. Stuff was relatively cheap. And we got all the capacitors that I was looking for to replace what I was missing in this radio. One-stop shopping. And I got my, I hope I said resistors on those and not capacitors. I was looking at capacitors. Got all my resistors I was looking for to replace in this radio, plus my new 47 microfarad caps to put up here for the ones that have went out of tolerances for whatever reason. And these are 250 volt. These were 160. I'll feel better about that. And these are plus or minus 20%, whereas these didn't have a percentage tolerance on it. The only thing that bothers me that these were a Panasonic brand capacitor, and I was happy with something named brand. These are a Hexacon, X-I-C-O-N is how it's spelled. So fairly cheap. I got 5 for, what was it, $5.23, and the resistors were like $2 a pack for 25, which just completely beats the snot out of what Radio Shack sells you 5 for $1.49. So live and learn. But now I have everything to do the recap on this radio, and I want to say thanks again to everybody. Y'all are a bunch of good old boys. Thanks so much for the information, and we'll see what happens. Well, the new electrolytics are in. I couldn't use these big blue jobbies that I got through Radio Days because they were just too big to fit in here. I would have had to do a lot of modifying and drill another hole, and I really didn't want to do that. So I had another set of these 47 microfarad at 160 volt, and I went ahead and changed some other stuff. I wasn't happy with that big chunk of wire that was in there. It wasn't the correct wire. It was not the correct gauge. There again, inexperience. So I resoldered everything correctly and neatly and cleaned it all up, and now we'll move on to those resistors. Guys, the end's in sight. At least I hope so. You know what? This has been one of the handiest little devices I bought. It's a helping hands device, and I paid about $17 for this at our local Radio Shack. Now that seems like quite a bit much, but to order anything from Harbor Freight would have cost me about $2 to $3 depending on what I wanted, plus the $6 to $7 to ship it up here from Dayton. Or I could have drove to Dayton. Still would have cost me more than $6 or $7, I'm pretty sure of that. But this one's pretty handy. It'll do a multitude of things. You put your soldering iron out like that, or you can put the magnifying glass on there. That's pretty handy. Really handy today, matter of fact. Or you can just help, which is coming really, really handy today. One, because I had to solder this tuning capacitor antenna lead back on. I'll clip him. I've had to make a few leads for capacitors and resistors working on this radio, which, believe it or not, folks, she's done. Not tested, but done. Every resistor in here was changed except for this little jobby right here. He was dead spot on. I just thought I'd leave him alone. And we also put back in the black silver 0.00001 microfarad capacitor. Soldered some new leads on him, extensions I should say. Soldered him back in where he went. I don't know what kind of solder they used on this set originally from the manufacturer. I can't get it hot enough to melt it with a 40-watt soldering gun. I was very careful to try to do that, but I was having problems with it blistering the old capacitors before the solder would melt. Crazy. So basically I got it hot enough to where it'd kind of move and I'd scrape it off. I don't know what the crap was. It was awful. It was nasty. I'd never seen anything quite like it before. But we went back with the old standard 60-40 rosin core flux solder to solder everything back into place. So all that's done. New electrolytics are in there. There's some new wiring here and there I changed because I didn't really like the way things were looking. But all it lacks is a trial run. The smoke test. I went through and checked all the sockets for the tubes. Everything seems nice and tight. Nothing seems sprung out. I was concerned about some of these tubes fitting rather sloppy in their sockets. But we'll give it a shot and see what happens. So stand by. Alright, I guess we're ready for a smoke test. So let's hope for the best. I got my meter on the appliance output socket. Should deliver 110 volts. We got our isolation transformer, we got our variac, and a 40 watt dim bulb tester in parallel. I might be being a little bit overcautious, but I really don't want to overdo it the first time out, so turn the keys, I guess. And here we go. About 20 volts. 30. 40. 50. 60. 70. Our clock motor's taken off. 80. Our bulb's starting to glow just a little bit. And our tubes are just barely starting to light. 74 volts. 83. Everything's looking pretty good. 99.6. Bulbs are lit up pretty good. Tubes are glowing nice and bright. Clock motor's going right along. Sitting at 99.9 volts. So, I don't have, this is dangerous, I know, but alright. Now that we know that our unit will run on a dim bulb tester with a 40 watt light bulb in series, let's run a full power test and see what happens. And away we go. Now this radio runs about 117 volts, so that's what we'll stop on the variac. Bring it up slowly. Tubes are starting to light. And there we go. The tubes have lit. And it sounds like we have the same situation as we did before, just random noise. I do, by coincidence, have the loop antenna hooked back up the correct way it would be if it was installed into the cabinet. We get no hint of noise or anything. That's silver migration, I hear. Silver degradation. I noticed earlier if you bumped it around, it would make some noise. It's not doing that now. Weird. Seems the audio output works fine. It makes some crackling noises. What do we have going on here? Something's not right, is it? Anybody has a comment or an idea what we got going on here? Leave a message down below. I'd be more than happy to entertain any thoughts of what we got going on here. Strange. But it is alive again, coupled with its clock. We just don't get no music or talk or anything out of it. These IF cans, they come off fairly easy. All you gotta do is pull these clips back on either side and this whole can will pull up off of it. And it's got plastic standoffs here, 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 and here, and then two go through the bottom of the chassis plate. Strange. Not quite sure what to think of this one.